Ciao a tutti, benvenuti a mi spettacolo. I am Parcero Philly, uniting all through sports and culture. And today, guys, one of my favorite episodes I'm going to do for you guys, because today we are previewing Serie A. That is right, Calcio is back, and you guys know how much I love Calcio. So of course I have to do a preview for the Serie A season that starts in 2 days, and many questions for this league who is still trying to recover from the Calcio era of Serie A. But Serie A has been improving over the past couple seasons, and we will see whether or not Juve can be dethroned, and we will see how much this league progresses. But let's dive in to this preview. Let's go! Alright guys, let's start off with who I think will be relegated this season in Serie A and in dead last place. I have the team from the same city of the team that got relegated in last place last season, and that is Hellas Verona. After last year, Chievo Verona got relegated. This year, the other Verona team will finish in dead last place. And this is the first time Hellas Verona is back in the top flight of Italian Calcio since the 2016-2017 campaign. Hellas Verona finished in 5th place, which qualified them for the promotion playoff, which they took care of business and won, and got them the promotion to Serie A. And in that playoff run, Verona relied on the 35-year-old forward Gianpaolo Pazzini, who scored 12 goals in Serie B last season. With the jump to Serie A, one of the big obstacles this team is going to run into is the fact that they don't have the same money that majority of the Serie A teams have to spend on the team. With that being said, they rely on will and might to try to keep them in the top flight. They didn't have any big signings, but they did bring in Miguel Beluso and Darko Lazovic, who are two midfielders that are coming over from Genoa. The hope is that these guys can help in that midfield. Hellas Verona is led by Ivan Juric, who is their manager, who took over the reign last May from Italian national team favorite Fabio Grosso. And with the leadership of Juric, this team was able to qualify for the playoffs and win the playoffs to give him the promotion. So now he has been given the keys to the car and will have the challenge of trying to keep Hellas Verona at the top flight of Italian football. And in the end, I just don't think he or Hellas Verona will have enough, and they will get relegated back to Serie B. And in 19th place, we have Milk. I'm kidding. We have Lecce, who are back in Serie A. It's been a while since the team has been in Serie A. They were relegated in the 2011-2012 season. And after a 7-year hiatus, Lecce is back in Serie A. And Lecce is led by manager Fabio Livarini, who led Lecce to a 2nd place finish in Serie A, giving them automatic qualification for Serie A. Lecce last season were led on the pitch by Andrea Lamantia, who finished 4th in Serie B in goal scoring with a total of 17 goals. And this season, Lecce have added 2 forwards to help bolster the attack in Serie A by adding Gianluca Lapadula, who is coming over on loan from Genoa, and also have added Simon Lofaso, who was bought by Palermo, who unfortunately went bankrupt and got relegated to Serie D. And Lofaso got out, and now he's going to get an opportunity to play in Serie A and show what he has. But in the end, for Lecce, I just don't think they have enough firepower to compete in Serie A. And really question this you call it a 4-3-1-2, but it's very similar to what we see here in Philadelphia with the Union's 4-4-2 diamond. I'm just not sure if the players they have with this formation that they have in place and the system they have in place will be enough to compete. Lecce gets relegated again and finish in 19th. In 18th, this was very difficult for me to decide. I wasn't sure who would get that final relegation spot, but in the end, I'm going with Spal. This team, honestly, has been lucky they've stayed alive in Serie A for like the past 3 seasons, and I finally think this is the time that they are going to go down. Last season, Spal finished in 13th place, only survived by 4 points. A season where they started off pretty good, even beating the surprising Atalanta team from last season in the beginning. Kind of went flat throughout the season, but in the end, they did just enough to stay in Serie A and finish in a respectful 13th place. And last season, Spal were led by forward Andrea Petagna, who actually was bought permanently this summer from Atalanta, and he is Spal's number 9. He finished tied in 6th in Serie A goal scoring with 16 goals, which isn't bad. Spal did lose Mirko Antonucci and did also lose Manuel Azzari, 2 staples from the Spal team last season. But do keep an eye on this season for Alberto Palucci, a forward for Spal, who I think will have a big season. But I envision this relegation battle this season to be a very tight one. And I think it's 1-10 Spal are finally going to get unlucky and will get relegated back to Serie A. Alright, in 17th place, just surviving the relegation to Serie A, I got Udinese Calcio. Last year's uneventful Campionato for Udinese actually finished with a 12th place finish. And the main issue with Udinese is the Parcero family. Obviously, we all know they are owners of Watford as well. Let's be real, the money is really in the Premier League, so they focus most of their attention on Watford, while Udinese has literally just been somehow going through the motions of Serie A and surviving for God knows how long. And this year, I think they'll finally get that scared that they really need to start investing more in Udinese. This is a team we're talking about that has one of your stadiums in Italy, and you give the fans of Uden a nice stadium for a team that doesn't match up the quality. That's not right in my opinion. But there are two players that I thoroughly enjoy watching, and that's Rodrigo de Paul, who I know very well, seeing him play with the Argentinian national team, and also the Italian international Kevin Lasagne, the captain, the striker. Those two guys at times show you flashes of greatness, but unfortunately the rest of the team can't say the same. And last season we saw this team go through 3 managers and gave up on Julio Velasquez, who I believe was set up from the start to fail at Uden. And Igor Tudor, who kept Udinese above in Serie A, was the 3rd coach hired last season, and he's going to give a chance this season to manage Udinese for a full season. This year as well as Uden, it didn't really buy anyone impactful during the summer. They're just going to continue just developing the young players, hoping that they can help the senior team, and eventually they can make a profit off of those players. Udinese survived the relegation battle, but finished in 17th. In 16th place, we have the great club of Genoa. And obviously last season, the talk of Genoa was the rising of Piotti, who joined Genoa at the beginning of last season, and from the start, tore Serie A up. It was even in the lead for goal scoring for the beginning of the season. And in the winter transfer period, Genoa made a profit by selling him to AC Milan, leaving a void at the number 9 role. And last winter, they almost sold Christian Kouamé. Didn't happen this summer. My prediction is he will be sold probably in the winter time, which will deplete a Genoa squad even more. Last season, Genoa was led by Cesare Prandelli, who led Genoa to an uneventful 17th place finish, just surviving the relegation, which led to his sacking. And in comes Aurelio Andrenzoli, who we all know as the heir apparent to Maurizio Sarri and Empoli, and actually brought Empoli back to Serie A, but then really didn't take Empoli anywhere, which led him to getting sacked. And now he's bringing the Sarri ball-like style to Genoa, and Genoa's hope is that he can bring some excitement and some wins, and keeping Genoa safe in Serie A as well. Especially with the fact that they did get rid of Piotic, and instead of trying to find someone to replace Piotic, use a system that gets all the players involved, can still lead to scoring goals. Quite honestly, not many big signings by Genoa this summer. Big fan of them bringing over my Parcero, Christian Zapata, which I actually have his jersey, by the way. A Colombian national team, Christian Zapata jersey. But they brought him over from Milan. Really love bringing him in. He's got Serie A experience, and he's still a quality defender at his age. Honestly, what I'm going to be looking for in Genoa is Christian Kouamé. I definitely believe with this new system in place, he's going to have a breakout, and it's going to lead to his sell in the winter time. Genoa just has enough to stay in 16th place. In 15th place, we have the team that I'm probably most excited about in Serie A this year, and that is Brescia. That is right. After winning Serie B last season, Brescia is back in Serie A, and this is an exciting Brescia team that we have. And for me, when it comes to Brescia, it all starts with the youngster and probably the future of Italy in Sandro Tonali, which we've heard plenty of times being compared to the Italian great Andrea Pirlo for his creative ability and long ball skill as well. And to add to the excitement with Tonali, who else would you bring? But I always me himself, Mario Balotelli. After the past 2 seasons has been desperately trying to get back to Serie A, his home of Italy, he finally can come back, not to one of the bigger clubs in Italy, but he gets to go back home where he is from, in Brescia. And to be quite honest, I'm really excited to see Tonali to Balotelli all season long. It's going to be so much fun to watch. And to go along with Mario Balotelli, Brescia's bringing over the leading goal scorer of Serie B last season, Alfredo Donnarumma. He led Serie B with 25 goals last season, and he's coming to Serie A, and I think he's going to have a production, especially with Tonali back distributing the ball and all Balotelli taking most of the attention. Donnarumma, I think, is going to have a good season. But of course, the pressure is going to come on Brescia's manager, Eugenio Corini, who took over early last season for Brescia and led Brescia all the way to winning Serie B. And we'll see how he can match up with the rest of the Serie A managers and clubs. I think Brescia is going to be one of the more exciting and surprising teams in Serie A, and I got them finishing in 15th. Alright guys, in 14th place we have the team from Sardinia, Cagliari, who finished in 15th in last year's Serie A campaign. And Cagliari is led by Italian manager Rolando Maran, who's entering his second full season as Cagliari manager. And this summer, Cagliari's focus was all on the transfer rumors. And back to last season's winter transfer, Nicolas Barella was heavy on the transfer rumors, with rumors to Napoli, Juve, Inter Milan. And then in the end, he was finally moved this past summer, as he was sent to Inter Milan on loan with an option to buy, which gave Cagliari a little bit of money to spend this summer. And what did they do? They bolstered that midfield. They replaced him by bringing over Raja Nainggolan. That is right, Nainggolan is back in Cagliari, where he played at the beginning of this decade for 4 seasons and really made his name in Cagliari. And for Nainggolan, this is going to be a huge year for him. It's going to show whether or not he still has enough left in the tank or whether he's just at near the end of his career. He's been going through some issues personally in his life, so maybe going back home to Cagliari maybe is going to bring a Nainggolan that we knew before. And hopefully it does, because despite me being biased as a Napoli fan, you know, he's an exciting player and he's a tough player in that midfield. And hopefully he can help Cagliari out in the veteran leadership and on the pitch as well. But Cagliari didn't stop there. They continued bolstering the midfield. Nathan Nandez from Boca Juniors and also Marco Rog, who is coming from Napoli, but last season did serve a 6-month loan to Sevilla. So with these 3 new signings, going to help bolster that midfield for Cagliari, and I'm really excited to see what that midfield is going to look like. But for Cagliari, we all know it's all about the development of the youth and trying to get them to produce. We're also going to have to keep an eye out for Cragano, Han, Serin, and Pellegrini, who are all young players in Cagliari's senior team and are expected to produce. I'm going to have another close eye on Cagliari this season, and I see them finishing in 14th here. In 13th place is a club a lot of us Colombians hold near and dear to our heart, and that is Parma. And Parma last season, their first season back in Serie A after a couple-year hiatus due to bankruptcy, saw them have a pretty solid campaign. And it was all led by Roberto Inglese, who was on loan from Napoli last season, and also Gervinho, who we all know from his time with Arsenal and Roma. He came back to Serie A to play for Parma, and he had pretty exciting spurts throughout the season. But the problem with Parma was consistency. They showed flashes last season, and then they also just came out flat in some of those matches. And without Gervinho and Inglese, they really were a lost team. But Parma's manager, Roberto De Versa, is one of the more astonishing managers we have in Serie A. He legit took Parma from Serie C all the way Serie B and now in Serie A, and he is still running the reins there in Parma. And the key here this season is, can Roberto take Parma into that next step? Stuck around in Serie A last season. That's not the goal. Want to try to get back to where Parma was in the early 90s. Try to fight for Europa League. Try to fight for Champions League. It's going to take some time. We'll see if it'll happen, but this season definitely won't happen. Let's see if Gervinho can score more than 11 goals than he did last season. And also Roberto Inglese is now a permanent signing for Parma, and he continue his development as well and help Parma out. Parma really didn't make any big signings this summer as well, just making some smaller signings that might pay off in the end. But the big one for me was signing Andrea Adorante from Inter Milan, a striker. We'll see if Roberto wants to switch up the formation this year and try to use 2 strikers, but I think they will stick to Roberto Inglese as that lone striker. Personally, I just see Parma sticking to what they were last season, and they'll be near the middle of the pack of Serie A, and I see them improving this year. They'll finish 1 place higher, and they'll be in 13th place. In 12th place, we have the hipster club, Sassuolo, one of the more exciting teams that we have in Serie A due to their style, their manager, with, the players that they have. They don't have any superstars on this team, but the style of play is absolutely beautiful. And Roberto De Zerba, one day, will get his chance to manage a bigger club or a country. But for right now, it's trying to get Sassuolo to fight for a Europa League spot. That's got to be the goal here for Sassuolo this year. But the difficulty is going to be is the fact that there's not a lot of talent still here, and Roberto's going to have to dig deeper and rely on the system again to try to get Sassuolo to produce this season. And for Sassuolo, they're going to continue to rely on younger players who are outcasted by bigger clubs around Europe. And Roberto's going to get the most out of these players. But the signing that I absolutely love by Sassuolo this summer was bringing in center forward Francesco Caputo, who was part of the relegated Empoli squad last year. But this Caputo, first off, Serie A legend. Goals after goals in Serie A. It was actually pretty serviceable for Empoli despite them getting relegated. And now, with Roberto and playing on the Sassuolo team, I expect Caputo to have his best season of his career at 32 years old. Last season, Sassuolo started off pretty good. They were in the top 10 for most of that first half of the season. But then the leader of that team, who was one of the main reasons why Sassuolo was having success, Kevin Prince Boateng, was actually sold to Barcelona in the winter transfer. They were playing so well, and Kevin Boateng was highlighting Sassuolo so much that Barca was like, you know what, we could use that. Let's come on over. Really didn't do much for Barca, but the fact that Roberto got Kevin to play so well and to get Barca to notice was big. Now this season, it's going to be a full season without Kevin Prince Boateng. Can they continue having this success without him? Because they were a different team once he left. I, for one, really do believe in Roberto, and I really do think that he's going to get the most out of his club again. But I think they finished a spot below where they did last season, and Sassuolo will finish in 12th. And 11th, guys, we have the surprise of last season. I got Bologna finishing here. And last season, they surprised us all after trying to fight off relegation for most of the season. Somehow snuck up and finished in 10th place. Did anyone notice that last season? Because I certainly did not notice Bologna sliding up to 10th. Now, last season, Bologna went into this season with manager Filippo Inzaghi, who we all know well in his playing times in Serie A. And in the 2017-2018 campaign, Inzaghi was actually with Venezia FC, who were trying to fight their way from Serie D to Serie A with the new management and the new direction that Venezia was heading to. Inzaghi impressed so much Venezia, Bologna snagged him for his club to try to create that success with Bologna. Fortunately, it didn't happen. Due to Bologna's lack of quality, fighting relegation, they fired Inzaghi. And then came Insensia Mohalovic, who surprisingly did what they wanted Inzaghi to do. He got them out of the relegation zone, and in the process upsetted teams like Sampdoria, Torino, Mainz on the last Renata of the season, which I don't ever want to talk about again in my life because I was watching that match and that was terrible to watch as a Napoli fan. But Mohalovic got Bologna to 10th place. Now, Bologna didn't have any big signings this offseason. Just getting some guys on loan who are outcasted could help this team. But the player I'm going to be looking for who they brought over is the young Japanese defender Takahiro Tomashio, who's coming over from Belgium. And if you ever hear me talk about Japan before in the past, I really love the discipline and the way they play. And I really think that this guy is going to make a name for himself here in Serie A with Bologna. I'll be looking out for him. But for Bologna, it's really just building on last season, trying to finish higher than 10th place, and also not trying to put themselves in a position where they are in a bad spot like the relegation zone and trying to get out of that. The Bologna attack is led by Riccardo Soloni and Federico Santander, and I expect these two to continue their form from last season, and they are going to be in charge of scoring the goals. I don't think that we will see the surprise Bologna gave us at the end of last season, but I still think Bologna have a pretty formidable season. They just finished a spot below than they did last season, and Bologna will finish in 11th. In 10th place, guys, we have back-to-back all-season winners in Fiorentina. That is right, they won the all-season again, in my opinion. And last season we saw the same, which led to them finishing 16th, fighting off relegation. Oof. And it honestly came as quite a surprise because they started off the season so hot, and you would think with the youth that they had, they would take that next step, try to fight for Europa and Champions League, but it wasn't the case for Fiorentina. They fell off hard. We're really in the relegation zone at the end of the season, and luckily, with a couple results, some things went their way. They were able to finish in 16th, but let's be clear, that's not the goal, and that's not what Fiorentina should be fighting for year in and year out. This is a team that has some talent, also has prestige. Fiorentina should not be fighting for relegation. After going 13 matches without a win, Fiorentina Stefano Pioli decided to resign, which, let's be real, we all knew that he was going to go regardless. 13 matches without a win, It's terrible, and they were falling down harder and harder. In came Vincenzo Montella, who's a guy who's experienced managing, who just came from Sevilla. And now with the full season ahead of him, we will see if he can get this Fiorentina team to stay in the top 10 of Serie A. Now that offseason we were talking about, obviously the big signings were bringing Kevin Prince Boateng from Barcelona. He's bringing over his creativity, which quite possibly helped players like Federico Chiesa and also Simeone, who's been forgotten in this Fiorentina squad as well. And they also brought in Frank Ribéry, the Bayern München legend, coming over to, quite frankly, end his career in Serie A. Quite frankly, is at the end of his career, and he's giving his last bit of gas in the tank to Fiorentina. And those two signings obviously are exciting, gets the fan base going, but the main problem last season for Fiorentina was the defense. Couldn't stop much, and also couldn't help build the attack. And I really didn't see Fiorentina make much changes in that back line. They're going to go with young, promising guys, but that's still not going to help that fact. Personally, I think just with the talent on this roster, Simeone and Chiesa are a year older, and I definitely think that they will not fight the relegation zone again. I see Fiorentina cracking the top 10, finishing at 10. Alright guys, at number 9 we got the other Genoa club, Sampdoria. And Sampdoria made history here in Philadelphia actually, as the Calcio community welcomed Sampdoria Club Philly last year. Now guys, if you are a Sampdoria fan or are considering to be a Sampdoria fan in the Philadelphia area, I will put the Twitter information down below. Go ahead and follow Sampdoria Club Philly. They could use guys to come out. I will try to show up to more Samp games because I am fond of this club of Sampdoria. It's got great history in Serie A, and how can you not love that logo? Come on, guys. But last season, the story of Sampdoria was all about the old guy, Fabio Quagliarella, who somehow found the fountain of youth and had a career season. Actually was the leading goal scorer in Serie A last season and actually led Sampdoria to 9th place, where I have him finishing this year. Sampdoria for the last 3 seasons were led by Marco Giampaolo, who after his success decided to take his bags and head over to Milan, and now is the manager of AC Milan. But all is well, because who do they replace him with? They got Roma's former manager Eusebio Di Francesco, which I am a big fan of. This is a guy who unfortunately had a bad ending with Roma, and let's face it, Roma, the spotlight, the pressure is high. He's heading over to Sampdoria where the pressure is not as high. He's going to have better control of this team. For some fans, this offseason felt a little weird. Usually every offseason, they're used to seeing Samp selling off some of their favorite young potential players to bigger clubs, but that really didn't happen this offseason. And also there was a debacle with the whole ownership, whether Ferraro would sell the team to the York management, but that seems like it won't happen as Ferraro wants to keep Sampdoria, which leaves fans a little bitter because they would love to see Sampdoria see the success they had in the earlier days of Serie A when they were actually winning Scudettos. But to this season, Sampdoria really didn't make any big signings. One signing obviously I'm going to love is them bringing over from Barca my Colombian Jason Murillo, and this is the perfect opportunity for Jason here in my opinion. He's going to show what he really is made of. We all know how difficult it is to get through in Barca, and it was rushed for him, and he really didn't give an opportunity to show Barca and the fans what he was really made of. But here in Sampdoria, I really believe he's going to be able to show what he's made of. Now, my issue here with Sampdoria this season is Eusebio's style of play. Will Sampdoria be able to grasp it? He likes the vertical play. He likes to move the ball quick. And will the Sampdoria team be able to keep up? Will Fabio Quagliarella be able to match the season he had last season? A lot of question marks with this Samp team. For some reason, something tells me that this team is going to surprise us again. But I definitely think that they still finish in the same spot they did last year, and Sampdoria will finish in 9th. Alright guys, in 8th place we have the other club from Turin, and that is Torino. And Il Toro last season were able to qualify for Europa League qualification round, so they will try to fight their way into Europa League group stage. But this is huge not only for Torino but also for Serie A. Hopefully these guys can make it into the Europa League. But that will be the challenge here. Can Torino balance Europa League with Serie A this season now? Last season they didn't have any other competitions to play. So we will see if they will be able to balance the two. I am fully confident that they can because they are led by Walter Mazzarri, who I know very well, former Napoli manager, and he's a veteran manager, knows what he is doing, and he himself led Torino to that Europa League qualification round. Now the good news for Torino this summer is that they retained a majority of their players, the big players as well. And most importantly, Andrea Belotti is back in Torino. But the problem is, they really didn't make moves at all. Like, legit, they didn't make any moves. They only signed their loan players that they had on the team last season. They made them permanent, but they did not bolster this attack or even the defense, and that's a little worrisome for me. There was heavy rumors that Torino would go out and get Simeone Verdi from Napoli, but that really hasn't fallen through yet. I don't know how far Torino can go with the same squad. I do like the cohesiveness of this team, but I just don't know if they will have enough, and especially trying to balance Europa League and the Campionato. I see Torino finishing in 8th. In 7th place, we have Lazio. Last year for Lazio was almost considered a disappointment. Simeone Inzaghi the season before had Lazio fighting for Champions League, just missing it, and also saw Immobile finish the season tied for the top goal scorer. And then in 2018-2019 season, we saw Lazio finish in 8th place. But what saved Inzaghi's job was the fact that Lazio were able to win Coppa Italia, bringing a trophy back to Rome. Winning Coppa Italia certainly is a remarkable accomplishment and something that Lazio should build upon. But this season, there's no excuses. The goal has to be trying to finish in a Champions League spot and qualifying for Champions League. That's what Lazio wants, and that's what they need. And they should be able to do that. They retained a majority of the team from the past 2 seasons, especially players like Ciro Immobile, Milinkovic-Savic, and Luis Alberto. And also bring back Correa, which I believe will have a big season this year. He's shown flashes last season, and I really like him on this Lazio club. They did bring in Manuel Lazzari, who is a prototypical winger for Inzaghi's system, and he should be able to create some attack out wide. Good pickup for Lazio. For Lazio, there's quality on this team. However, the talent I believe they do have is not enough for them to qualify for the Champions League. I see them trying to claw and fight for that last spot. It's going to be a fun ride like the last couple seasons, but in the end, I just don't think Lazio have enough, and I see them finishing in 7th. In 6th place, we have the other Roman club, and that is AS Roma. Last season, Roma were coming off a surprise year. They made it all the way to the semifinals of Champions League and finished the Campionato in 3rd place behind Juve and Napoli, and then came last year. Roma had a season to forget. There was drama from up top to the fans, the players. It was just a shit show altogether in Rome. They went out to fire Eusebio Di Francesco near the midpoint of the season and brought in Claudio Ranieri to try to salvage what was left of the Roma season, and he was able to get Roma to that 6th place. The run of Champions League play is over. They will be playing in Europa League this season, and it's a competition I expect them to take very seriously. This season, Roma's going in with a new manager, bringing in Paulo Fonseca, a Portuguese manager who actually is coming over from the Ukrainian Premier League, as he was the manager of Shakhtar Donetsk, and he won 3 Ukrainian Premier League titles. It's pretty impressive. Now he's going to try to bring over the success from Ukraine over to Italy. And if you're a Romanista, how can you trust this club? Year after year selling big star after big star. Talk about Mohamed Salah, Alisson, and this past year they got rid of El Shaarawy. They constantly feed the fans the idea that they are trying to build a young nucleus of squad. They're building a young squad that could be the best team in Serie A, but they consistently just keep selling players that could, quite frankly, help them right now. The main problem last year was that back line, and it's going to be worse this year. They gave Manolas to Napoli, and they replaced him with Mancini, who came from Atalanta, who's a solid center back, but he's no Manolas. And the back line's going to be even worse than last year. And Olsen, who was the goalkeeper last year, might be replaced by Paulo Lopez, who's coming over from Espanyol. But whether it's Olsen or Lopez, they're going to have a tough time back there with that not so good back line. They did also bring in Amado Diawara, who I know very well with his time in Napoli, and just from seeing him in Napoli, Roma just has to realize that this guy is nothing more than just a central defensive midfielder. He's good at stopping the attack, moving forward in the counterattack. He really cannot take on much responsibility. They did just recently, in the past week, brought in David Zappacosta, who is coming on loan from Chelsea. We'll see if that can help anything in that back line. Now for Roma, I'm expecting that guys like Zaniolo, Under, and Kluivert to take that next step. Those are the 3 players, in my opinion, they need to make that next step, because those are the 3 guys I believe is the future of Roma. Personally, guys, I don't think Roma has enough this season to qualify for Champions League. I'm just hoping that they don't spiral out of control, sort of like what they did last season. I got Roma finishing in 6th. All right, guys, we are cracking into the top 5 now. And at number 5, We got AC Milan, who probably might have the most exciting young squad in Serie A. Last season for Milan, it was a real up and down year. In the beginning of the season, they went through some injury concerns. In the winter transfer market, we saw them make two big signings who will probably be cornerstones of their club for the next couple seasons, bringing in Piotic and Paquetá, who will make a formidable 1-2 punch for Milan's attack. And they showed us promise last season. And after that stressful season, Gennaro Gattuso decided to resign. And in comes Marco Giampaolo from Sampdoria, who did an excellent job with Sampdoria over the past couple seasons. And hopefully he can bring those ideas and that success over to AC Milan, because he's going to have a much bigger payroll and a bigger club, bigger city. Milan did bring in Theo Hernandez from Real Madrid, a young French wingback who I really like for Milan, and they are in talks right now to sign Angel Correa from Atletico Madrid. We'll see if that will happen before the deadline, but if he does come, him with Piotic, it's going to be dangerous stuff. I'm truly a big fan of this AC Milan squad. I think they have a lot of potential, a lot of young potential. However, I do think that it's going to take some time for them to grow and learn and play together. I don't think this is the season that they do damage. I see them finishing in 5th, qualifying for Europa League. And another thing to keep in mind is that they're going to have a year off of no European competition. So it's going to be enough time for them to try to fight to get that Champions League spot. But I think they fall short, and I see them finishing in 5th. In 4th place, guys, we have the surprise team from last season. That is Atalanta. Last year surprised us all and finished in 3rd place in Serie A. A pretty big accomplishment for this team. And they are led by their fearless leader, Piero Gasperini, who Atalanta found a way to keep for another season. He has truly impressed as the manager with Atalanta, getting this team, who's constantly been known as a selling team, to finally compete for Champions League, for Serie A. And this year will be their first season that they will have to balance Serie A play with Champions League. We will see how that works out, but they kept a lot of those players from last season and maybe even bolstered it a little bit more. And I'm loving this team. They are led by, we all know, my Colombian Duvan Zapata, who had a huge year last year, almost finished as the leading goal scorer in Serie A, but I expect him to have another big year this year as well. We also have Ilic, who is a great central attacking midfield, creating opportunities for his attackers, and they brought in Luis Muriel from Fiorentina, another Colombian. I think him in this Atalanta system is going to flourish completely. They did lose one of their young promising defenders in Mancini, but they replaced them with Martin Skrudel, who could be a better replacement for Mancini. Skrudel's coming over from Fenerbahce. He did play 8 seasons with Liverpool, so he has European pedigree, and it'll be interesting to see what he can do with this Atalanta team. I really am looking forward to seeing this Atalanta team. They're no longer a surprise anymore. And I think the challenge for Gasperini is going to be making sure that he keeps this underdog mentality with Atalanta, letting them not be too complacent. I think Gasperini has this under control, and I don't see them finishing in 3rd, but I see them finishing right there in 4th place, making Champions League again. And in 3rd place, guys, I have Inter Milan, and quite frankly, the only reason why I have Inter here is because they have a legit manager now, Antonio Conte. We know him with his time with Juve, with the Italian national team, with Chelsea, and now he's bringing his talents to Milan with Inter. Now, we all know Inter last year was a complete mess. They started off the season not so hot. We all remember got upset by Sassuolo in the first jornada. That was a bad one, and they kind of stumbled out of the gate. Then they did lose. Then they did also lose to Parma, but they picked it up, and they were looking hot. And then it was the Icardi drama. Wanda Nara being at it with the Inter management, and Icardi was out for the second half of the season, and it was a complete circus last year. In came Conte. He wants to get rid of all the trash and garbage out of Inter. Icardi is still not sold, but it's gonna take a while. It's very possible we could see Icardi sit another 6 months at Inter. It's gonna be bad. They also got rid of Nainggolan as well. So Antonio Conte is trying to build a new culture there in Inter. For me, the big signings for Inter was bringing in Nicolas Barella to replace Nainggolan, and he's one of the more young, up-and-coming, promising central midfielders that Italy had. and I think he's going to flourish in that Inter system with Conte. Another big signing for them is the biggest one, is bringing Romelu Lukaku over from Manchester United, giving them a formidable number 9 striker who doesn't have a crazy wife like Icardi. And I think Lukaku is going to flourish in Serie A. He's been wanting to play in this league for a while now, and he's going to play with the manager he wants to play with. There is still talks that they are trying to bring in Alexis Sanchez. We will see if that happens. If that does happen, that bolsters their attack even more. For me, when it comes to Inter, this season is all about Conte implementing his style, implementing his culture in this team. I think they will have a successful year, but I see them finishing here in 3rd place. Alright guys, the top 2. Now this is very difficult for me to decide because obviously we know one of the teams is my favorite team and the other team is my most hated team. But at number 2, I have Società Sportivo Calcio Napoli finishing in 2nd place. And to be quite frankly with you, the only legit reason why I have Napoli number 2 is because we didn't sign James. I truly believe if we were to bring in James, we are the favorites to win the Scudetti this season. But unfortunately, it's looking more and more like it's not going to happen, especially after Napoli just did finish signing Chucky Lozano for 42 million euros, the biggest signing in Napoli history. I love the signing of Chucky Lozano, but that's not the player we need to take us to the next level. That player was James, and it seems like James is going to stay another season with Real Madrid. But there's still a lot of talent with this Napoli team. Obviously, we're led by Carlo Ancelotti, one of the best managers of Serie A. And this year, it's all about Napoli taking the next step, winning a trophy. This team has been so talented, so good for a while now, and they need to win a trophy with this group of guys. Obviously, the big signing this year, besides Chucky Lozano, was bringing in Kostas Manolas from Roma, giving Napoli arguably the best center back duo in Serie A, maybe in the world. Koulibaly, Manolas, you tell me who the fuck is getting through that back line. They also did bring in Di Lorenzo from Empoli, giving some more depth at the fullback position. Unfortunately, we did not get rid of Mario Rui and El Hysaj, which really bums me out because those two bums need to leave. And we also, an underrated signing that we did get was Elif Elmas, a young 19-year-old Macedonian midfielder who's coming over from Turkish league Fenerbahce, and he has a lot of potential, and I'm really excited to see what he can do for us as well. My other concern is the depth at the striker position. Obviously, we have Arkoudis Milik, who is hot and cold at times throughout the season, but it was huge last year that he was able to play majority of the season and finished the season with 17 goals, which wasn't bad. And last year in Napoli, we finished in 2nd place. We started off the season hot, we were looking good, and to me, I think what was the downfall for the season was Champions League. We were hot in Champions League, we beat Liverpool, we were sitting up top of our group, the whole group stage essentially, and literally it just took one stinking loss to Liverpool and ended our Champions League season. And honestly, that was a turning point for Napoli last year. They weren't the same team. They lost and tied some matches that they really shouldn't have lost or tied, and they kind of just lost that spark and fire, which is the reason why I thought bringing in a guy like James, someone who has the potential to be a superstar, who has also won but needs to prove that he can be that guy, this was the perfect opportunity for him to prove that he was that guy if he was able to lead this Napoli team to some sort of trophy. I truly believe this year the Scudetti race is going to be a lot closer than last year, but in the end, again, Napoli are lacking that one true difference maker, and I don't see them winning Scudetti this year. I really hope I'm wrong, but I see Napoli finishing in 2nd. And in 1st place, it's Juve. I wish I could say I am wrong. I really hope it doesn't happen, but at Juve, I think they're going to run away with their 9th consecutive Scudetti. This year, obviously, the big difference is Allegri's gone and in comes Maurizio Sarri, which to me, it was the wrong hire for them. To me, Sarri is just stubborn as shit. He's going to bring over his 4-3-3 pass-heavy tiki-taki style of play, and which is not what Juve needs. Juve has the ability to line up in different formations and give you different looks. By giving teams that one look makes them more vulnerable to lose, especially in Champions League. You needed a manager who was able to take Juve to win Champions League. What the hell has Sarri done in Champions League? What the hell has Sarri done in European competitions in general? But with the talent on this roster, it's enough for them to win Serie A. And they did just bring over Matthias de Ligt from Ajax, one of the young promising defenders in the world, and also brought in Rabiot from PSG on a free transfer. That's huge for them. To me, he's an underrated central defensive midfielder, and I think he's going to be big for Juve as well. For Juve, the bigger concern is what they will do in Champions League. But when it comes to Serie A play, I don't see how they don't win the Scudetti this season. Juve just squeak out the Scudetti this year by finishing in first. Alright guys, those are my thoughts on this Campionato of Serie A. Unfortunately, I got Juve winning. I have Juve, Napoli, Inter, and Atalanta finishing as the Champions League contenders, the same as this season. I have Hellas Verona, Lecce, and Spal getting relegated. So guys, in the comments below, I want to hear from you guys. What do you guys plan to see from the Serie A Campionato? Do you think Juve is going to win? Do you see someone else? Who is your surprise team this year? Who is a team you see falling off this year? Let me know in the comments below. But guys, thank you so much for tuning in. I really appreciate it. And if you like what you see and you want to help see me continue growing, please hit the like button, subscribe to the channel, hit the bell button for notifications, share this on Twitter, Facebook, Instagram. I'm trying to get to 100 subscribers, and I could really use you guys' help, so please help me out. But until next time, ciao tutti.